All right, what's up, Patreon? Today we're going to talk about a topic that I've been focused on for quite a while now, and that is focus itself. You've probably heard of the idea of task switching, so going from, let's talk about projects into daily work. And so typically projects, regardless of what we're working on, have some sort of creativity to them. Like you're probably working on things that you've never done, maybe they've never been done before, but probably you've never done this thing. So it requires a lot of attention and focus while you're doing it. Then you have your daily things, like for myself, cleaning the gym, checking email, doing different items like that. And it can be hard to go from one to the other for myself. And so I started looking into that and kind of what is that? And like anything, it comes down to brain chemicals. And so today we're going to kind of look at that and talk a little bit about how focus comes into play and how we can work on setting ourselves up to be focused when we need to, but then defocused, actively relaxed whenever we need to as well. So before we get started, there are 4 main chemicals in our brain that kind of run everything, and quite a few of those will be coming up today. And so the 4 that run everything is adrenaline, acetylcholine, dopamine, and serotonin. Serotonin is not going to be talked about a bunch today. May go back and do the 4 chemicals on their own, but for today, adrenaline, acetylcholine, and dopamine. You've probably heard of adrenaline. It's that, get up and go feeling. You've probably heard of dopamine. It's the feel good compound. It's actually a more compound, but it's what most of us are chasing. And then acetylcholine. You've probably mainly heard of acetylcholine when it comes to muscles and weightlifting. And while it does play a very big role there, it's also a big part of our focus. And so if we look at focus, and if it was an arrow, the shaft of the arrow would be adrenaline. And that is what is guiding us through, has all the power and the potential moving forward. The arrowhead is acetylcholine. It is very fine. It is a point. It is an arrowhead. It is a sharp point of that. And then dopamine is actually the energy source that is pushing us along. So it was all the built up energy in that air in the string as it let it go. That dopamine is pushing a shaft of adrenaline, and then at the very tip of that is acetylcholine. So we'll talk a little bit about acetylcholine as we get through this as well. One thing that I want to bring up before I forget it, and it's where I've been spending most of my time thinking about this stuff. So if you're doing something new, and that can be at work or it could be in the gym, it could be learning a new sport, something like that, you're going to require a ton of acetylcholine to do this thing. And so it would mean that the more normalized, the more regular I can get with this thing. Now it's muscle memory, right? It's this thing that we've heard of, and I don't need as much acetylcholine. And so much like CrossFit, the idea of CrossFit is learning how to do the fundamentals really well. And then as those fundamentals grow into more complex movements, those complex movements are now your fundamentals. Those are your warm-ups. And so you're able to do much more work in a much shorter time. This would nearly paint the picture of let's take sports, for example. I was having this thought while I was watching people play the state championship volleyball games a few weeks ago. You can only be focused for so long out on the court, right? And you see the lapses of focus when someone doesn't take the step beforehand and then they end up being short on the ball, or you can see lapses of focus happen. And these games are going for 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Well, that's as much as someone of my age at 30 can focus, let alone a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. But the more that they do this in practice, the more reps that they put in, it would lead you to believe that they're actually using less acetylcholine and will be able to play for longer. But that's just something that I was kind of working on or thinking about. Let's look at just really quick from the start. What is a good way to get into focus? Maybe you want to be able to sit down and really get into it. 40 hertz binaural beats. And so you can look these up. There's an app called the Brainwave app that you can do. But if you'll start kind of listening to this about 5 minutes before you work, it'll kind of help. It literally helps gather the brain chemicals that you're looking for. Some people turn it off. You can turn it off if you want to. You can keep it going, but it is up to you. The big thing to know in all of this is like we are going to throughout a day go through like a cyclical pattern of being focused and unfocused. You can try to force it, and then you'll never be either of those things, which is where I think that we find a lot of ourselves being at. But so you're not wired to be able to go into immediate focus, and you're also not weird if you're not able to just like jump right into doing something. It's a wave approach. You'll get deeper and deeper into focus if you'll give yourself time to do it. And so one of the big things, we have about 90 minutes of focus. That's kind of come up a few times already, and it'll come up quite a few times throughout this talk. But you could start to set up work bouts around that 90 minutes. And how you would want to probably do that is give yourself 10 minutes in the like front end of that to get literally warm. Like you were warming up for this bout of work that you're about to do. And you give yourself the 10 minutes, 5 of that is listening to binaural beats, or maybe spend the whole 10. But then that'll get you going. And then once you start working, things will happen. Your phone will go off, you'll hear something, you'll look at something, whatever it is, and it'll make you come up out of that focus. And that's like, it sucks in the moment, but this is good. This is nearly meditation as far as like, it is a wave approach. And so when that happens, be aware of it, try not to get upset, go back to your work, and you'll probably find that this round you get to get a little bit deeper, and then you'll get a little bit deeper the next time. We will talk a little bit more towards the end, like what are some good things to help with focus. The best thing to help with your focus, the best thing to help with your health, your happiness, whatever it is that you're chasing, sleep is truly the answer. We want to give ourselves 8 hours to try to sleep. That is the big thing that we should be focusing on here. The best in the world aren't sitting down and focusing, and they don't have just like this die-hard will or this like ability to not lose focus. Instead, why they are so good at focusing is because they know that in a 90-minute bout they're going to come in and out of it, and they're just better able at re-engaging. They've flexed that muscle so many times, they've become distracted and went back into it, and that just gets sharper and sharper and sharper, much like you hear people talk about meditation. So at the end of this 90 minutes, what we want to do is look at something that's going to take like 10 to 30 minutes. We could just do like menial tasks if you were like tied to an office job where you can't just kind of like be free with whatever you're doing. Go to email for 10 to 30 minutes. Try to do something that you don't have to necessarily concentrate super hard on. And so we're going to tie a lot of this stuff to meditation. There is meditation parts of this. But a lot of this, it does tie back to being in the gym. We have to get warm. We have to set ourselves up for this work that we're about to do. We can only do the work for so much, or we're going to start to get like less than ideal results out of pushing further and further. But then we also have to rest between sets of work. And so all of this is kind of getting back to like bouts in the gym. So if you have 90 minutes, we're supposed to be working an 8-hour day. How many of these bouts like can you get? You put 90 minutes on, you take 30 minutes off or whatever. Well, I mean, hell, that's 2 hours. You should be able to get like 4 of these. Well, not necessarily. Most people can only get like 2 real 90-minute focused sessions a day. And I'm not one of those people. I don't think I've ever been able to pull off like 2 really, really good 90-minute focuses. If I get 1 a day, honestly, I'm pretty pumped up about that. And I'm taking that to the bank. It is a really cool thing. But you can like start to try to get better and better at this. Start at 1 session a day. You want to tie this from your week into your weekend as well. And so on the weekends, like do something that you're going to enjoy. Maybe it's reading and like really putting your focus into this book. Maybe you've been thinking about this like business thing that you want to do. Like cool, like weekends and nights, 90 minutes, like really start working on that thing. And you'll start to grow this muscle, and eventually you'll be able to do 2 90-minute sessions, and then hopefully after that you'll be able to get more and more. But again, this all comes back to sleep. Like 1 bad sleep night, good luck getting that 1 90-minute bout of focus. If we wanted a few tips and tricks, like a few different things that we can do to break into this focus, One is a meditation that I practiced for a while. I've kind of fallen off of it. We're just coming off of Thanksgiving, and so this week it didn't happen as much. But they did a study anywhere, I think it was like 8 to 20 minutes. What they found the sweet spot was like a 13-minute. So a 13-minute meditation for concentration. And what you want to do is you're going to focus on your breath. So that's going to give you, you're not going to have to like think about something. You're not meditating on anything necessarily. You are focusing on your breath, and we're practicing getting that focus going. But you're also going to focus about 1 inch behind your skull. And so I'm trying to think of how this is worded. Your brain is not proprioceptive. So like you can feel your arms where they are in space. You can feel your toes where they are, but you can't feel your brain. Like you don't necessarily know where it is. And so what we were trying to do by focusing 1 inch in here, we're actually working on that prefrontal cortex where a bunch of like planning, concentration, all these different items come into play. We're seeing if we can warm that up. So for 13 minutes, I'm trying to really focus 1 inch right here behind my eyes and my forehead. And then I'm going to really focus on my breathing. If you want to put that to like 2 count in, 4 count out, you can. You want to do box breathing, whatever it is. Even if you don't like count seconds or anything, you just want to like feel your breath, feel your chest rise, feel whatever it is that you're doing. That'd be super helpful. This is something that I haven't done myself on this next one, but there's this thing called the Reverie app. It's for hypnosis, which is like an interesting thing. I am oddly a believer. I am actually a believer in hypnosis, as weird as that may seem. When I was in high school, they brought a hypnotist in. I went through the entire act. I was a super shy kid and just acted in a way that was not me. And so what's funny about it when I talk about this, you are aware. You do know what's going on. It's literally like you have less inhibition. I was very open to prompts and suggestions and being different than me, and it was okay in that moment. I wasn't as focused on everything else. But yeah, Reverie app, and from everything I'm hearing, leads to high levels of focus and relaxation. If that's a little bit too much for you, and we want to go back to the meditation space, and maybe even meditation up to this point has been too much for you and something you've never tried, something I suggest you doing, something that's very beneficial to me, is non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. And Andrew Huberman, where I'm getting a bunch of this information from, has a video out on YouTube. You can search for Andrew Huberman NSDR, it'll pull up. I want to say it's like 10 or 11 minutes. It's a guided meditation to get you out of your head into your body. Super relaxing. Is a very cool thing to work in. We spoke earlier of the like staring at your desk space for 5 minutes or whatever. It's a bit too much time for me to just sit there and stare at it. And so something else that I've been working on is working to get into focus. What I'm doing is like if you're going to focus on something, you are narrowing your gaze, right? Like instead of looking out at the room, I want to look at the computer, and that's going to help me be focused on this thing. And so what you can do is get like a pinpoint or something, hold it out, or you can pick like a very small object across the room, and you're going to stare at that for 30 seconds and just literally stare and try to focus on that object for 30 seconds. And then every day you can add 5 seconds up until you get to a minute. And this is helping literally send signals from your eyes, and how all of this works with our brain, into, hey, this person needs like a very narrow level of focus. And then when you're done with that and we need to disengage, we need to enter a relaxation mode so we can get that second bout of focus later in the day, I want to do the opposite. Now I want to look broad. I'm in a room right now, so I wouldn't really even do this. The best for me, I think, I want to get outside and like try to get away from trees, buildings, different things like that. And the more horizon, just the more that you can see out, look as broad as you can, and that'll help you to get into this relaxed state. This is just like a me thing, but there are certain items that I do, like programming for people. I need to be focused, but in switching from person to person, I need to be able to take like a small break. And so I'll do this a lot outside. And I can sit there and I can work, and then I can just look up from my computer. I can take in the broadness of outside for a little bit, a couple of deep breaths, go to the next person. And as I'm going through the movements on my computer, going from one folder to the next to find this person, that's kind of getting me back into this focus mode. and then I go over some of their old past workouts, and boom, I'm ready to rock and roll and keep going from there. And so pre-focus, to enter a focused state, we want to look narrow. When I'm done with this and I want to get back out into socializing, doing different things like that, I want to look broad for a while. If we want to talk about supplements as we get down to the end of this talk, fish oil is one that comes up. Fish oil is good for your heart, for your brain. Omega-3s and omega-6s, back in our Paleolithic days, we had a much better ratio. It was like a 6-to-1, and I'm going to be lying. I think it's omega-6-to-3. Don't quote me on that. It's been a long time since I've memorized that kind of stuff. But it's whatever the beneficial stuff from fish oil is. And in that, on fish oil, what you want is 3 grams of EPA and DHA. Don't go off of what they say. Look how much EPA, DHA is in that and combine those for how many capsules you need to get 3 grams. But yeah, fish oil, it's beneficial for our heart. It's beneficial for our brain. It's something that's going to come up in a lot of different things as far as a supplement that you should look at taking. Creatine is, it's the muscle supplement as most people think of it. It's technically not that at all. Like, it is funny, I talk to people and they just talk about like water retention and if they should be drinking more or less water. Like, there's so few studies that point to anything like that. Like, we're thinking of creatine wrong. But so just to take a step back really quick on what creatine is. Creatine is the most basic ATP. ATP is what our cells use for energy. And so if we look in the gym, creatine is a 1 rep max. It's a 100-meter sprint, something you can do for 10 seconds and boom, like the full energy. It takes a long time to build that back up. Then you have glycogen. That's kind of your like CrossFit workout. If we're going to go from like 4, it's really like only like 90 seconds, but 4 to 8 minutes, we're going to be in the kind of glycogen state. And then everything past that is aerobic. That's your like fat burning state. So those are those things. Creatine is super beneficial if we're going to do high intensity exercise, different things like that. I do think it helps with like, I don't know if it's water retention, but I'm typically like 5 or 6 pounds heavier when I'm taking creatine. But as beneficial as it is for your muscles, it is also beneficial as a fuel for synapses in your brain. And so that's like, all of these things come into play too. Fat, carbs, creatine, these are all fuels for your body, also fuels for your brain. The next one is alpha GPC. This is, it's for more acetylcholine. There's been fear of it and raising what's called your TMAO, and that's not necessarily good for heart health, but from what Dr. Huberman and a few other people say, taking garlic alongside it really helps with this issue. Then we have L-tyrosine. This is going to get you more dopamine. There's a list of like different foods you can get it from, or you can supplement it. The real big thing to talk about here though is this is the problem with the weight room, it's the problem with everything, is we want to jump to this section. We want to jump to what supplements are going to help us focus, and let's just start taking those. And that is the entirely wrong way to go about it. Start with your behavior, like start behaviorally. Are we getting enough sleep? Are you getting morning sunlight? Are you setting yourself up in a state where you don't have music playing that's going to distract you? Your phone's not open, it's going to be buzzing and going off, getting you out of focus. If you need to focus, be in a quiet place. Do the different task of looking at the pen, do the NSDR, do the 13-minute meditation. Start working these things. Then after that, let's look at your diet. And if we can eat a healthy diet, and healthy is going to be different for everybody, but it should be whole foods. Like, that's the kind of end of the discussion right there. Eat a whole food diet. Choose if carbs or fat are going to give you a better source of fuel for yourself. That can't be answered for everybody. I'm particularly better off eating high fat. That is not for everybody. So find out if you're going to be carbs or fat. Really dial in your diet. Dial in when you were eating around these different focus bouts and different items like that. And then at the very end of this, we can go to supplementation. I supplement fish oil from time to time. I supplement creatine from time to time. As far as getting into these other items, I've never tested those. I've never tried them. I am doing the meditation and different items like that. But for these supplements, I have not tried those, and I don't plan to, because I am a firm believer in just learning and having this knowledge and knowing that I can apply these things, that it will continue to get better. Like, to get the monkey off of my back of like shit, I'm just not good at focusing. When it's really like, no, you can only do this for 90 minutes. Like, you can only do new things that take a lot of focus for 90 minutes, and then we need to disengage. And then knowing that like the most focused people in the world might get 3 of these bouts. The like super advanced people are getting 2. And for most of us, like, we're working on getting that 1 and growing it into 2. But that is going to wrap up my talk today on focus. I hope it helps. And if you have any questions, please let me know.